Some ice cubes for your drink?
Yeah.
There's lots in the bag.
Hey, what's up guys? You're watching Bobsdecline, where we talk about anything that has to do with power lines and being a lineman. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Aaron. I've been a lineman on the east coast of Canada for 19 years now. And for all the returning viewers, yes, I still have my mullet. It'll be gone Thursday, hopefully, unless I get called into work, which I probably will. So today we're going to be covering a little bit about storm work. For those of you that follow my Instagram, I think I had a few pictures, maybe a video up when I was working in Cape Breton in Nova Scotia. And there was a bit of an ice storm that blew through. So we sent a few crews up to Cape Breton to help out. At its peak, I think there was 57,000 customers out of power. Not a real crazy amount. Big enough for a rural area, and Cape Breton's fairly rural. It's actually quite a bit bigger than I thought. I had no idea how much ground there was to cover in Cape Breton. We drove all over that island for hours, and I gotta tell you, there were some really cool sights. There was a couple real neat bridges, great big bridge, real small bridge, lots of mountains. There was water absolutely everywhere. It was beautiful country. It was the first time I've been there since maybe I was 4 years old. So basically, as linemen, most areas have the bare minimum required to maintain the system and regular outages and service calls. But whenever there's a large storm or a major incident, the affected area is going to get as much help as they possibly can. In fact, there are quite a few linemen out there where their entire career revolves around storm chasing. We don't do a whole lot of storm chasing. We have gone down as far south as Florida. We've been into Maine, New York quite a few times. This particular storm was in Sydney, Cape Breton, which is in Nova Scotia, and it was an ice storm, basically freezing rain. The surface that it hits is so cold. As soon as that rain hits, it turns to ice. It sticks to the lines. As that ice accumulates on the lines or even nearby trees, it can cause quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, she's a little bit icy climbing today. Not very fun, but we'll get her on. Yeah, I cut her all down, eh? Yeah. Sounds good, man. See those tree tops that are touching it. The tree's actually about 15 feet away from the line. The top folded right over with the ice. So we get that cut now. The wire was broken mid-span. Boys are going to sleeve it on the ground. I'll pull it up over the crosshair and throw a sleeve in right here. The line's untapped. Take off in the main road back there. And of course, we've got all of our bonds and grounds on. Pole's pretty icy. She wasn't a fun climb. These dogs help quite a bit grip the ice there. Alright, so while the boys are cutting behind me, I gotta sleeve that center phase there. We're almost done. I'm gonna dangle it and try to lasso those pullers so I can set those up right there. See how we do. So close. So close. Look at that. Just missed the hook with my hand line. We're gonna try her again. All right, we got him. Just kidding. My partner tied him on.
So this particular storm, it was pretty good. Now, normally when you work in an ice storm, the poles, the wires, the trees, everything gets covered in ice. It gets real heavy, causes a ton of damage. But then the sun comes out the next day, all that ice melts, and you're generally working in not too bad of conditions. This particular storm was not the case at all.
Well, that was a nice climb up. The gaffs are pretty well just biting nothing but ice.
We did this one particular job where there was a large tree. The entire top of the tree was iced up and it was overhanging the primary. If it had snapped, it would have broke both poles on either side of the valley, and it was a very difficult place to access.
All right, so we just dropped the wire over this valley here, and got grounds up on either side. We dropped both the primary and neutral, so we wouldn't snap the poles. Quite a lean on that tree there.
So we walked in through there and we actually dropped the wire to the ground, and we had some arborists that dropped the tree, and then we strung the wire back up. So we didn't get into any real big messes. Sometimes you get into storms and you'll come up the street where every pole is broken laying on the road. There was nothing like that we run into personally, but we did tour pretty well around the entire island of Cape Breton. I didn't realize how big of a city Sydney was in Cape Breton.
And then right after we're done there, we can go to Lick a Tree.
Lick
Next door.
Lick a treat. Oh my god. I thought you were joking.
I pictured just mostly vast plains of open fields, snowmen. But no, there's a city there. And so we stayed in a pretty nice hotel. We were lucky. Not all storms. When you get into major storms, sometimes you get stuck sleeping in a cot or at a gym in a school. It's not always ideal conditions. If there are hotel space available, because naturally where the public's out of power, they rent up a lot of those hotel spaces as well. But we were lucky this storm. We had some really nice accommodations. I stayed in a different hotel pretty well every night as we traveled around.
All right, guys, so we're back at the hotel now. We're in Sydney, Nova Scotia. First time I've ever been here. I didn't realize it's a pretty big city, actually. We're up on the 5th floor. We're up on the 5th floor here. There's our trucks. There's three of us that have been working together. And a little bit of a view from here. We were down doing a job by the Newfoundland ferry earlier, which is pretty neat. I'd never seen that before. Definitely gonna have to take the family up here for a visit. A lot of nice spots. Maybe not so much in the winter, but summertime, real nice spots.
And when we landed in Sydney, I had a hotel room 5 stories up, had a nice view of the city. It was pretty neat. We had some major flooding.
Before I let you know, turn on the 3.
The water now.
Might need some personal flotation devices.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to be walking on that sidewalk.
Always uncomfortable in.
There was wind the whole time. The wind was crazy. The wind's always crazy over there. It's not unusual to get 140 km/h gusts of wind in Cape Breton. So we visited a few areas where there was no wind at all, and all of a sudden there was gusts that you could hardly stand up. I didn't take my truck for the storm. When the boss called and said, "Hey, do you want to go with the storm crew?" First thing I said was, "Am I taking my truck?" And there was another troubleman in the same position as me. He was next on the list, and he was asked first, so he decided to take his truck. And when you're going on these storms, you don't want to take too many of these little service trucks. They're great to run around and do the switching while the big crews go in and do the work. So I left my truck back here, had somebody cover my work for the week, and jumped in with one of the other guys and one of the material handlers. So when you're working in other areas like this, it's kind of complicated sometimes with procedures for work. Their procedures are probably going to differ in some ways than the procedures you use. Generally, what you do is whatever is safest is always a procedure you choose. So for example, if your company, let's say you don't use rubber gloves with sticks, when you're on their property, one of their rules is they do wear rubber gloves with sticks. Whatever rule is generally an extra step into safety is what you do. If you travel to another area and they're a little more relaxed on some safety rules, you still have to adhere to your company's safety rules. If you travel to an area that's a little bit stricter, then you have to adhere to their stricter rules. You always want to play it safer anyways, because you are on an unfamiliar system.
Those down guys are
yeah, down in the water.
Stainless steel rods.
A couple of the jobs that we went to, we actually had to drive our truck onto a little cable ferry and get kind of trolleyed across the water onto an island within an island on the island. I don't know. It was some pretty difficult terrain to navigate a lot of times, actually.
yes, sir.
I think I'm gonna sit my horse anyways.
Oh yeah, I'm going to here in a minute. Oh.
It was a lot of fun. When we go on storms like this, most places you're working 16-hour shifts. So your morning starts at 6 a.m. and you work till 10 p.m. You get your 8 hours rest and back at her again the next day, 16 hours. You're not climbing poles 16 hours straight. Generally, you have at least a continental or maybe a little bit of a breakfast buffet in the morning as soon as you wake up. Grab a coffee, and then you're gone for the day. Usually eating out of brown bags, box lunches, stuff like that. And then you'll start to wrap things up around 8 p.m. Start cleaning up your gear and try and go for a warm meal, hopefully, at the end of the day. But like any storm, the last day we're there, once everything's wrapped up, we get released. They'll basically say, okay, everything's good. You guys are good to go. Get a good night's rest. We'll try. A lot of times we'll sleep in for an extra hour or something. I think the last night we were there, we said we'll wake up at 7 instead of 6 and strike her for home. It was quite a long drive. It was a full day of driving to make it home. But that previous night, we all went out to supper. We had the whole gang. Not everyone from the company, but our group that was stuck together for the storm. We all met up for supper. We had a real great meal at a nice restaurant, had a few drinks, and the foreman came along, who's actually not included in this picture. Oh, there we go. There's the foreman. Real great group of guys. Everyone did their share of work. Everyone contributed to the jobs. It's a lot of times these storms, you get into some pretty hairy situations. So that's pretty much it, guys. We're going to head home, edit this up. I'll see what I got for coverage of the storm. There wasn't a whole lot. Don't forget to drop me a fist bump. Let me know where you're watching from. If you have any questions, want to make fun of my mullet, leave it down in the comments below. And I'll see you next time.